In the grand tapestry of human history, some threads are woven in brilliant gold, telling tales of empires and triumphs, but others are frayed, broken, and lead to an unnerving silence, hinting at a story lost to the ages. What happens when one of the brightest threads, a civilization rivaling the titans of its time, simply vanishes? Deep within the sands of modern-day Pakistan and India lies the ghost of a civilization, a Bronze Age marvel that was, for millennia, erased from the human story. This was the Indus Valley Civilization, a society that flourished between 2500 and 1900 BCE, contemporaneous with the Great Pyramids of Egypt and the ziggurats of Mesopotamia. It wasn't a minor kingdom or a collection of scattered tribes. It was an empire of ideas, a culture that sprawled over a staggering 1 million square kilometers. Its great metropolises, Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa, were testaments to an ingenuity that defies their age. Yet, after 6 centuries of apparent stability and prosperity, the people of the Indus fell silent. Their cities emptied, their script became unreadable, and their memory was buried under layers of earth and time. The rediscovery of this magnificent civilization in the 20th century didn't solve a mystery, it created one of the most profound enigmas in all of archaeology. What could cause such a sophisticated and widespread society to collapse so completely that it was utterly forgotten? To understand the depth of this mystery, we must first appreciate the scale of their achievement. The Indus people, or Harappans as they are often called, were master builders. Their cities were not chaotic sprawls, but meticulously planned urban centers, laid out on precise grid systems with a level of civic organization that would not be seen again in the region for over 1,000 years. Mohenjo-Daro, the Mound of the Dead, featured multi-story houses built from uniform baked bricks, complete with private bathrooms and toilets. These homes were connected to a complex, city-wide network of covered drains and sewers, a feat of sanitary engineering that was unparalleled in the ancient world. This uniformity was a hallmark of their culture. From the northern highlands to the Arabian seacoast, archaeologists find the same standardized weights and measures, the same distinctive pottery styles, and the same intricate seals. This suggests a vast, interconnected society bound by shared governance, trade, and culture, rather than a centralized monarchical rule. And on these seals, we find their greatest riddle, a tantalizingly elegant script of symbols and creatures that remains, to this day, completely undeciphered. It is a language frozen in time, holding the secrets of their beliefs, their economy, and perhaps the very reasons for their downfall. For decades after the rediscovery of Harappa and Mohenjo-Daro, the prevailing narrative for their demise was one of violent conquest. The story, often sensationalized, told of a dramatic invasion by nomadic chariot-riding warriors from the north, the so-called Aryans, who swept through the subcontinent, laying waste to the peaceful cities of the Indus. This theory, born from limited evidence and colonial-era interpretations, painted a simple, dramatic picture of civilizational clash. However, as archaeological methods grew more sophisticated, this explanation began to crumble. Rigorous excavations across dozens of sites have failed to produce any evidence of widespread warfare or conquest from this period. There are no layers of ash, no sacked cities, no mass graves filled with the casualties of a great war. The skeletal remains that were once presented as proof of a final massacre were found to be from hasty, everyday burials, not a violent end. The Aryan invasion, once the textbook answer, has been largely discredited by modern scholarship. The truth, it seems, is not written in the blood of a final battle, but in the subtle, more complex language of the earth itself. The fall of the Indus Valley Civilization was not a sudden death, but a long, slow fading. The search for a new explanation turned scientists from battlefields to riverbeds, from swords to climate data. A far more compelling and evidence-backed theory began to emerge, one centered on the very source of the civilization's lifeblood, water. The Indus civilization did not just flourish along the Indus River. Many of its largest settlements were built on the banks of a mighty, seasonal river known as the Ghaggar-Hakra. For centuries, this river system, fed by Himalayan monsoons, nourished the vast agricultural plains that supported the Harappan cities. But ancient climate data, extracted from lake sediments, ice cores, and geological surveys, tells a story of profound environmental change. Around 2000 BCE, the monsoons that fed the Ghaggar-Hakra began to weaken and shift. The rains became less reliable, less powerful. What was once a life-giving river system began to shrink, its flow becoming erratic before dwindling into a series of seasonal streams. For a civilization built on agricultural surplus, this would have been a catastrophe in slow motion. Prolonged, severe droughts would have withered crops, decimated livestock, and strained the delicate balance of their food supply. The once fertile heartland would have slowly turned to dust, forcing a widespread abandonment of the great cities. This wasn't an invasion of people, but an invasion of climate change, a relentless, invisible enemy that gradually dried up their world and forced a mass migration of its populace towards more sustainable regions in the east and south. While climate change provides a powerful, overarching explanation for a gradual decline, it may not be the entire story. The Indus Valley is a seismically active region, a place where the Earth itself is restless. The same tectonic forces that created the Himalayas make the area vulnerable to catastrophic earthquakes. Archaeologists have found evidence at some sites, like Mohenjo-Daro, of massive ancient floods. One theory posits that a powerful earthquake could have drastically altered the landscape. It might have uplifted land, creating natural dams that blocked the flow of the Indus River, leading to monumental floods that would have submerged entire cities and agricultural lands for years. Such an event could have drowned the foundations of their society, both literally and figuratively. Alternatively, tectonic shifts could have directly altered the course of the rivers, diverting the water away from established urban centers and leaving them high and dry. A series of such devastating natural disasters, whether earthquakes or the resulting floods, could have acted as critical tipping points. They could have shattered trade routes, destroyed infrastructure, and broken the societal coherence that was so fundamental to the Harappan identity, accelerating a decline already set in motion by a changing climate. A third, more subtle explanation looks inward, suggesting that the civilization may have carried the seeds of its own collapse. 6 centuries of intensive agriculture and urban living could have taken a toll. Resource depletion, such as deforestation to fire the countless brick kilns, might have degraded the local environment, making it less resilient to drought. The dense urban populations, living in close quarters, would have been highly susceptible to the spread of infectious diseases. The discovery of pathogens like cholera or tuberculosis in skeletal remains suggests that public health crises could have periodically weakened the population. Furthermore, the remarkable uniformity of the civilization, once its greatest strength, might have become a weakness. A rigid, perhaps overly centralized system might have struggled to adapt to the mounting environmental and economic pressures. The decline in trade with Mesopotamia, a key economic partner, which is evident from the archaeological record, would have added further strain. This wasn't a single event, but a slow socio-economic unraveling. Perhaps political fragmentation began to set in, with different regions breaking away, disrupting the vast, interconnected network that had defined their world. This internal decay, a slow erosion of their once mighty structure, could have left them critically vulnerable to the external shocks of climate change and natural disasters. The truth, most likely, is not a choice between these theories, but a convergence of them. It was not just climate change, or an earthquake, or internal strife, but a devastating combination of all three. Imagine a society already stressed by decades of weakening monsoons and failing harvests. Its social and political systems are strained, its trade networks are fraying. Then a catastrophic earthquake strikes, triggering a massive flood that cripples a major urban center. The faith in the ruling order shatters. People begin to abandon the cities not in a single panic, but as a trickle that becomes a flood of migration over generations. This complex, multi-cause scenario is what modern science is meticulously trying to piece together. Archaeologists today use satellite imagery to trace the phantom course of the lost Ghaggar-Hakra River. Paleoclimatologists analyze pollen and soil isotopes to reconstruct the ancient climate with astonishing precision. Bioanthropologists study human remains to understand the health, diet, and diseases of the Indus people. And all the while, linguists and computer scientists continue their quest to crack the code of the Indus script, the ultimate key that could unlock their story in their own words. Every new discovery is another echo from their vanished world. The fate of the Indus Valley Civilization serves as a profound and humbling echo in the Great Hall of human history. It is a story of a brilliant people who mastered their environment, built cities of astonishing complexity, and created a culture of incredible reach, only to be reclaimed by the forces of nature and the passage of time. Their magnificent cities were not conquered and razed. They were simply abandoned, left to the wind and the sand. The unresolved questions linger, as potent as they were a century ago. Who were they, truly? What did they believe? What stories did they tell? Without their words, we can only speculate, piecing together their world from the silent artifacts they left behind. Their disappearance reminds us that even the most advanced and stable societies are fragile, intricately linked to the climate and environment that sustain them. Their story, lost for 4,000 years, is a timeless, cautionary tale. As we look at the challenges facing our own world, we are left to wonder, what echoes will our civilization leave behind for future generations to uncover? Join us on our journey through the ages, where every discovery is an echo of humanity's great history. Don't forget to subscribe to Echoes of Time and hit the notification bell so you never miss our historical explorations.